Welcome, Night Owls, to the Book Club After Dark podcast, an inviting moonlit podcast. I'm your host, Danny.
And I'm Michelle. We break down fantasy, romantasy, and thriller novels, as well as dark romance.
Sometimes, yeah. All things enchanting, intriguing, suspenseful, and maybe a little spicy.
Each episode features intimate discussions on captivating stories, character breakdowns, fan theories, and more. And this is your content warning. This podcast contains mature themes and discussions that may not be suitable for all audiences. Episodes include explicit language and descriptions of mature romance, as well as depictions of violence and other intense subject matter. This podcast is rated R for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
And going forward from here, there's going to be lots of spoilers, of course, for Quicksilver and Brimstone, the Fae and Alchemy series. Consider this your spoiler warning. I also want to emphasize that this coverage will be inclusive of the entire book. So even though we're only covering a section of the book in this episode, note that we will be discussing the entire book in full and reacting to the book as a whole. So I just want to make that very clear as we start our coverage that the chapter breakdowns are inclusive of reading the entire story. So consider this your spoiler warning.
Let's get cozy because the best stories are told after dark.
Tonight's drink of the episode, I felt, was very fitting to the prologue of this book. And Michelle and I kind of did sort of a buddy read, but Michelle started like way ahead of me and I had to catch up. But I knew I wanted a book club after dark. We always like to do, at least I like to do, a drink that embodies the color of the book cover in some way and the design and all that. So we had this really warm orangey glow here on our sprayed, or it's not even sprayed edges. I guess they would be like the brimstone color and the orangey glow of the deluxe edition. So I wanted to try to embody that in a beverage. And then the title for tonight's drink is called One Horse, because if you know, at the very beginning, this is our color here. If you're looking and watching online, I think I got pretty close to our cover color design here. It's called One Horse because we have Carry-On and Kingfisher in a trope that I love, which is the one horse trope. And we kind of get that right out of the gate. So I had to embody that in this drink and give it that title. So seeing as it's the beginning of the book and it embodies the color of the book itself, that's the name of our drink. But what is it, you might wonder? So it is, to get to this color, we went to an event with the Good Pour and I purchased a bottle of pear spiced liqueur that I've been waiting to use. So I used that. I used some cranberry juice and topped it all off with some sparkling wine. And that gave us this really nice color here. So it's, again, spiced pear liqueur, a little bit of cranberry juice, and Prosecco. And that makes up our One Horse. So there we go. Cheers.
Sounds delicious. When I read, because like you said, I started before you. And when I read that part, I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, Danny, have you started? Danny, have you started? I'm like, this is your favorite trope. And it's like right in the beginning. And it's not even, it's like your favorite trope in the least expected way possible, but like the best way possible.
Yeah. You immediately text me in all caps, One Horse trope. And I was like, well, that's going to be drink of the episode number 1. And so here we are. So I had to figure out a way. I was like, we need to have a drink. And then I also, because Onyx kind of comes into this, I wanted a lighter, refreshing. I mean, I could have gone, part of me wanted to go like dark whiskey for something that had Fisher and Carry-On together. But then I thought more about it and I was like, the very beginning is so like light and funny. And I was like, there's a couple of different ways we could get this like warm orangey color. I'm going to kind of experiment here. And then that spiced pear just worked really nicely. So it's really crisp. It's refreshing. And yeah, we'll show you how to make it online. So cheers.
Cheers.
One Horse. There we go. I had to, Michelle. I just had to. So tonight we're diving back into Velia. And of course, we had our maps. We're going to talk through the prologue, chapters 1 through 9 of Brimstone by Callie Hart. We're also going to talk about our failures and wins as far as what we predicted for this book. So I think we got to stay tuned for that because that's going to be some really interesting stuff. Yeah, we're going to get really into the nitty-gritty of Brimstone and talk about all the things, but I think that discussing what we thought was going to happen and what did happen are going to be interesting topics for tonight. So whether you're reading along with us or you're just here for the book talk, we are glad that you're here.
All right, so before we get into the story, let's look at our map because this is an updated map that we have. There are some new areas that Callie designed in this map. Some of the new areas that were mentioned we didn't go to yet, but it's important that they're there. They were mentioned in the story. So the majority of the story, we're in Amantreath or we're in Kalish, between the two. So that's where we're going to be in this episode for the majority of it. We also do bounce around to the Wicker Wood for a little bit at the end. Ballard is mentioned, as well as Inishtar. That's for, a little glimpse. And then we make our way in the end to Ajin's Sky. So, there are places that were meant or were new, like Nevercross. We don't go there. We find out about it. We don't go there. We don't go to the Shield. We also don't go into the Terran Ross Islands, but those are really important. And I feel like they're going to be
the Shield is brought up. There's definitely there's several mentions of these places. So I do think that there's definitely places we are going in book 3. We could talk about that more as we get into this.
Absolutely.
But we didn't make it to Graves Point, and I thought we might make it to Nevercross. We did not make it to either of those places. So speaking of things we thought we were going to do, but didn't quite make it to yet. But I think in the pacing,
I think we will.
Makes sense. Yes. It makes sense that we haven't.
Because
we haven't gone there yet.
Ishabel says that it is last resort. So I feel like that is a last resort. That is probably one of the final things we're going to do at some point in book 3, which we won't know until November of next year. But that's okay.
Yes, that's okay. That's okay. We're going to make it through. We got less than a year.
Right.
We're already in December.
Yeah.
Come on.
That's true.
It'll be fine. Honestly, it could have been way longer. So I feel like that's a pretty quick release.
I mean,
that we already know the date.
How long have we been waiting for book 6 of ACOTAR?
Okay.
So, I think we can do a year.
We can do a year. We can do it. Less than a year now. That's what I mean. Less than a year. Yeah.
Also, it's important to look at the pronunciation guide. I love that Callie does this for us because her names are really unique, really rooted in Gaelic. So makes it a whole lot easier for us. She intentionally didn't include new characters, but I felt like for the most part, they were pretty easy to pronounce. So
yeah, same. I agree. And then I wanted to talk briefly. Yeah, we'll get into the prologue. I wanted to talk briefly about there was a lot of feedback that we received in comments of folks being upset that there are multiple versions of Brimstone floating around and that some have bonus chapters, some do not. The deluxe hardcover that we picked up from New Romantics did not have a bonus chapter in it. Kindle did not have a bonus chapter in it. The audio also did not contain a bonus chapter.
Nope.
The Target edition that you have behind you did include the carry-on point of view chapter. And then Michelle has ordered a Waterstones edition, which hasn't come in yet. So we'll talk about that in next week's episode, but the bonus chapters in there. So we'll spend a little bit more time in bonus chapters. We will cover those to as much of the extent as we can. And that'll be at the end of all of our coverage because it's appropriate that would be the time that we do that. So they will be covered, just information for those just joining us who haven't talked before. We do cover the bonus chapters and we'll cover them in depth. They will just be at the end of our coverage and not at the beginning because it just makes the most sense logically to cover it in that way. So let's jump into our prologue. Like I said, at the end of this episode, I do want to talk to you, Michelle, about our wins and loses on what we thought was going to go down overall.
They're all wins. It doesn't, even if we're wrong, it's still a win.
Okay.
It's still fun. It's still a fun part of theorizing. I feel like that's a big part of the bookish community.
It's so fun. Yeah.
It's just really fun.
Well, we got a lot of comments that were like, oh no, it's definitely this. And like, while I didn't read any of those until after I had already read the book, because I was like, I'm not going to do spoilers for myself. I was just like, you guys aren't getting it. Like, it's not about, we preface by saying, hey, this is what we think. We obviously don't know. The book isn't out yet. And if anything, it further validates the fact that we didn't know. And we're just having fun and we're thinking along the lines. And, Callie's just cackling to herself in the background.
Absolutely. She's just giggling or maniacally giggling, honestly.
Oh, yeah. Like, she's like, oh, these fools. They think they know.
And if you've watched like The Emperor's New Groove, this is like millennial Disney when Yzma turns into the cat and she's like, ah. Yeah, that's Callie. Not saying she's an evil cat, but that's just what she is.
Uh-huh.
So as we do our chapter recaps, we're actually doing this slightly different because in the past we used to deep dive chapter by chapter and that's it, and we'll do our theories embedded. Here we're going to do more of a high level overview of the chapters because we assume that you've read the chapters. You don't need us to really go over it. But after we do our chapter recaps, just so we know where we are in these chapters, we'll go into our quotes that we think are either theories or just really important to the series that we need to pay attention to. Okay?
Yeah. Yep.
So let's go into Prologue. So Prologue is Kingfisher's POV. They're in an Imitreath. Kingfisher is like stalking through their castle looking for someone, and he talks about like there's the different smells of humans versus vampires because humans have feelings and you can smell feelings, and then vampires, they only smell like their victim's blood. So I thought that was interesting. We're learning a lot more about vampires. Fisher ultimately finds the vampire he's looking for and kills him, does his little thing, but the vampire gives a warning, which is definitely setting up the rest of the book and the rest of the series. So he says they're going to destroy her. It has already been seen. This court will fall with her inside of it. So obviously, when you get to, this sets up like the book. When you get to the end of the book, the court does fall. But with her inside it is kind of interesting. So that's gonna be like a little nugget. I feel like we should keep for later. Because technically it doesn't fall with her inside of it. So what else does that mean? And then Carrion interrupts Fisher and shows him that Onyx has been outside running toward Imitreath with a bunch of feeders following him. He's supposed to be in College. If you look at the map, College is way the fuck away. He like literally traveled through mountains and, is just exhausted at this time. And, Kingfisher's like, oh shit, that's the dog. Like, that's a fox, I have to go rescue it. Carrion's like, me too. And this is where we get our one horse because Kingfisher gets a horse and he tells Carrion to stay and Carrion doesn't want to stay. So
Kingfisher doesn't get any
jumps
horse.
on the back of the horse.
Bill, his horse.
Yes. His horse, which Carrion gets to, they get to snuggle on the back of that and rescue Onyx from the feeders. And it's a pretty intense scene when you read it. But the good part is Onyx makes it through. He has extensive injuries. Yep. And we also understand power and magic sources in terms of the Fae. So
this was really interesting to me.
Onyx,
yeah.
Right. In order to heal Onyx, Kingfisher gave Onyx his healing magic.
Right.
So there's this idea of you can gift someone your magic, and magic, at least lesser magics, they're transferable in a way. And I thought that was a really interesting thing because we knew nothing about magic from Quicksilver for the most part. So what did you think about that?
I thought it was very much foreshadowing. Because I was like, we aren't just going to learn about this the one time. We're learning about it now at the very beginning. And I think Callie talked about that, right? She talks about how the first chapter in Quicksilver was so important. And we're not even in the first chapter yet. This is the prologue. But she writes everything with so much intention that there's no way she's going to teach you about this little piece of magic and, we're just never going to see that again. No. It's really important that we understand that you can essentially lose parts of your lesser magic if you burn them out. Like, they can not return. And I also think it's important that there is this broader scope that we learn of what lesser magic can include, and like that each person's unique magics are different. I thought that was really interesting and telling of kind of what we're going to see as far as how we're going to understand Ceres and her arc, because we've seen so little of her magic so far. And I thought Brimstone overall was a true better understanding of walking through, even though Ceres annoyed me a lot. We'll talk about that a little bit, which is surprising for me because she's like one of my favorite FMCs ever, but I digress. She is learning about all her different types of magic. So I filed that away as soon as I read it, and I was like, interesting. Okay. I don't think this is the first time or last time that we're going to see this. We're definitely be seeing this again. What did you think?
Right. Yeah, no, I definitely thought it was foreshadowing. And it also made me think of, because we talked a lot about what like Kingfisher's like true magic is. Is it illusions? Is it shadows? And we actually get more of a peek into that
Yes.
later
Big
on.
peek.
And yes, of what his magic actually is. And I really did enjoy this part because Callie does build this massive world, and we got a lot of character development, and I really was missing more of that magical element that I really wanted to understand more of. There's more questions in Quicksilver. Obviously it's the first book, so I like how even though there's still questions at the end of Brimstone, a lot of what the fuck questions, but
Yes.
we
So many.
understand the magic more here. So yeah, and the fact that he gives it to Onyx has me questioning the end when, Onyx, in the end with Onyx, and how giving magic to a being will, maybe a non-Fae being, might impact later on. So,
Okay. Yep. No,
yeah.
I hear that. And I think at the end too, it was interesting. The whole wild ride of the last 100 pages, the last 10%, Callie was not joking. That was fucking
Always.
crazy. It's just crazy,
Mhm.
craziness. Right. So chapter 1, we jump into chapter 1. Kingfisher had given Onyx healing magic. Onyx is healed. We're now into Ceres's point of view, so we switch points of view, and she now has to basically embrace her role as this Fae vampire queen, and she's not doing a great job of it, in my personal humble opinion. There's a lot of just, I don't want to say like lack of acceptance, but that's kind of,
Oh, it's a lack of acceptance. It's
yeah,
100%
like
is.
she just doesn't want anything really to do with this. And it's like, well, honey, you killed their king. So, it's like you're going to have to accept some of this. We kind
And
of
to
get
be
this.
fair for Ceres, she has gone from like street rat
Yeah.
to now not even human, half Fae, half vampire, queen of an entire court. So I understand it's a hard jump to go from, struggling to have clean water to that. But
Yeah.
also, yeah, no, she
In the
was really
span of like
frustrating
months.
for most of it. Yeah.
I
She even
mean,
forgets her birthday, which I thought was really, she's like, oh shit, there's been a lot going on. I'm 25 now.
yeah, like a lot. Just a
So.
few things. Cheese and rice. So there's this talk about in the beginning of chapter 1, we get a glimpse into how she can feel Tal's emotions, and that it's a tether. It's not a good feeling. It's just like an awkward thing to feel that. But she can also feel Kingfisher, but it's a different bond. Obviously, you have Kingfisher's God bond, and then you have the Maker bond between Tal and Ceres. And so she's kind of split between these things, And she's also thinking about Carrion's true identity, and what, Carrion has not acknowledged his true identity. This also comes up later. This all kind of foreshadowing, like setting us up for where this story is going to go. And again, points to the fact that Callie's really intentional with her first chapters. She's bringing us Ceres again. She's saying, hey, Ceres is okay. Hey, Onyx is okay. This is where we're at. This is what we're opening to. And these are kind of all the key players in all the storytelling that we're going to start to kind of unravel here as we kick off this storyline from Brimstone. There's an understanding that she has got to go out and face her new court. There are 5 vampire lords. These are important. And it's specifically said multiple times that lords does not pertain to gender. It's very specific to in the individual, but they're all called lords regardless. So there are 5 lords of midnight, and they were all lords for Malcolm. So that's where we have this, basically these lords that she has to go meet and have them acknowledge her as queen. And there's this thing where Tal's just like, look, you've got to do this. It's like a non-negotiable thing. So come on, we've got to get it. There's a key quote where I really like that Ceres does what she always does, and she like really steps into her power here, even if she's not feeling it. And she understands that power is power in certain situations, and she cannot play a weak, vulnerable person here. She needs to be like, I am your queen. I'm no child. I'm Ceres Fane. I'm your queen. And there is a lot of back and forth in this scene, but more importantly is that to emphasize the fact that she steps into her power, and they need to acknowledge her and accept her.
Mm-hmm. Right. So chapter 2, we actually get who the five lords of midnight are. So we have Zorvina, which is keeper of missives. She is fucking annoying, and she is always challenging Saris, which I I know we're supposed to hate them, but honestly, they were created by Malcolm and they've only known Malcolm. So I kind of understand why the shift is so drastic for them.
Agreed.
But Zervina is fucking annoying the entire time. Then obviously Taladeus, he is the keeper of secrets. He was also Malcolm's second in command, and Saris ultimately does follow that with him. We have Aerith, which is keeper of even light. He worships the demon gods, which is really important here.
Very.
And then we have the Hazrax. The Hazrax was really creepy.
Yes.
He is the keeper of silence. He's not of this court. He is a completely ancient being. Everyone's fucking afraid of him because his power and his magic is so much more vast than anything else.
You can feel it radiating off of him.
Yeah.
Feel.
And the way that, he wears a robe with his hood covered, and he just kind of reminded me of a Dementor ultimately. That's what I was picturing.
Yeah, because he had this webbed. Yeah, he had this he had all these teeth when he opened his mouth, so that part's not like a Dementor, but the other pieces of it where he's kind of webbed and not really alive, but his skin is
and he kind of hovers
thin.
When he moves.
Yeah,
too.
he doesn't really stand or walk normally. Yeah, it's all weird.
And there are times where he flickers, his presence flickers. That Saris points out that it's weird, but he is important. He just wants to watch. Wants to watch Malcolm, wants to watch the court. He just wants to gather all the information of things. And then we have Algat, which is the keeper of records. She was once a witch and cast out by her own clan for meddling in dark magic. So as soon as I saw that, I'm like, well, fuck. She is going to do some dark shit, ultimately.
And reminder, all of these except for the Hazrax are vampires. So Algat is a vampire.
Yes.
She was a witch meddling dark magic. But it's important to note, Zorvena and Taladeus both are previous Fae. Aerith also previously Fae. And just a reminder that even light is vampires obviously can't be around open flame. So they have this thing called even light, which basically reminded me of you remember those things in the 90s that you would crack and they'd had a glow stick?
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of.
It's a greenish glow.
Yeah.
Right?
That was this glow stick type light. That's a magical light that they use as their lighting system, basically.
So once we're introduced to them, Aerith demands Saris to drink because they're like, you're a virgin. She's like, no, I'm not. And they're like, we don't care about sex. The fact that you haven't drank from anyone, you need. Yeah. So Kingfisher ultimately offers himself up to her, and this is where we understand what a dose is and the very sexual act of, because Fae drink from each other too because they have the pointed teeth, and it was a very public display of sexuality in terms of drinking. But she also got a new tattoo out of it, which is a thin bar across her shoulders, which I thought was pretty cool. So yeah,
and I think that's important to note that there's on a spice level front, I felt like this book was spicier than Quicksilver, personally. And I also felt like it still drove plot. And, there's a lot of things that are happening in each spicy scene that drives the story forward. We can talk about that more as we wrap this episode. So anyway, moving into chapter 3. Oh, well, yeah, we'll get there. Chapter 3, Aerith climbs a dais, and Kingfisher, he's saying he knew he was up to something. Kingfisher can tell that Aerith is biding his time. And Saris is oblivious to this, of course. And there's a moment where Aerith tries to kill her. We knew this was going to happen. Taladeus even warned of it ahead of time. Hey, basically be on the lookout. They don't want you here, and someone's going to try to take you out. It's more than likely going to happen. So Kingfisher basically throws his sword Nimrel at him and slices the guy in half. His whole body splits open in the middle of the floor, and Nimrel slides into the obsidian floor. And then Tal has to kill all of Aerith's followers because he can control liquids, and that includes blood. So Tal basically boils them all in line. Exactly. Basically boils them all from the inside. Cool. And they die a pretty horrific death. So now this is really interesting because Tal has made this made it very clear of whose side of the fence he's on, because he's served with Aerith for hundreds of years now. They've been part of the same Lords of Midnight for a time and served under Malcolm. But the second that he steps against Cerys, who is his progeny, but still steps against Cerys, he's like, no fucking way, I'm taking you guys out, and makes this choice. So very clear line in the sand that Tal is making here. Cerys then gives her first command as queen, which is very, very important because it keeps the vampires in line. They're required by magic to follow this. And her quote is, "From this point forth, whenever you're in my presence, this is how you will greet me, on your knees. All subjects of the blood court of Sansaroth are forbidden from harming, hindering, or killing me, my mate, or any of my friends." So this is important too, because later on she will specifically address people as her friends to give them this protection. Additionally, from this moment onward, no feeder enthralled to a high blood of this court may be used for purposes of war, malice, or mayhem. I have spoken, it is done. This also means that Irin kind of doesn't serve a purpose now at this point, because she's basically said, like, you guys just need to stop. This is done.
Feeders
so we
are
think.
gone, technically.
Yes. So we think. But not all is that simple, because it never is.
Nope. It is.
This is all part of this greater plan that they have for the Sandsrothian, but Tal has to keep his end of this bargain as well and try to keep Cerys alive while also trying to adapt and change and also kind of play both sides. Tal's got a lot of responsibility here, and he does it fairly well. I was definitely expecting, and we talked about this quite a bit, more of a romantic bond and more of a possibility of like a love triangle, but we definitely did not get that.
No.
There was no...
We didn't at all.
We didn't get it at all, no. Kingfisher talks with Lorith and Ren about what's going on and mentions, how Cerys addresses them, and Ren is like, damn, that's so badass of her, blah, 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 but also like, is she trying to die? And it's, the mention of Foley comes up, who we find out was a member of the Lupoprolia, and previously we remember the bonus chapters that are the prequel chapters that are on Callie's website, and Callie emphasized specifically, you need to go read these. It's important, and hopefully you did go read these, because Adjun Gate and those chapters are so, so critical to this story that I'm like kind of shocked that they never made their way into a physical book. Because at this point, yes, they're free on her website, but they are so critical to the storytelling of this whole series that I do think they drive an enormous piece of plot. And without having read those, Brimstone, I think, definitely would fall flatter. You're not required to read them, but in my personal opinion, if you didn't read them, if I hadn't read those and I read Brimstone and Quicksilver, it just doesn't hit the same. It just doesn't. I feel like those chapters are really important.
Yeah, you don't really know the purpose behind the Lupoprolia as much, because it really solidifies them. We know about more of their members. We know about Nimmerel. We know about Foley. We know about like all these, like Ren's twin sister. Like all of this there would have been way more confusion if you didn't read that. Yep. Which all of those things are mentioned in this book. So if it's definitely necessary. I mean, obviously, you can read this and get kind of glimpses of the background, but it's not the same. You definitely need to read those chapters.
I wonder, too, and on a separate note, I wonder why, for Brimstone, they didn't just publish them. They could have easily slid them into before the prologue and just put them in as bonus chapters. Like, hey, here's your prequel. Like, here's your... to have the physical copies of them, because I do think that they are so critical to this story that they should have been entered. That's one thing that I hope in some format or another, even if it's in book 3, Callie, I hope you're listening, put it in, please.
I'm sure it has to do with cost,
the Gate parts 1 and 2.
To be honest.
I guess.
Because it's already...
Yeah, but we're all willing to pay for them. Come on.
It's already... Yeah.
We're willing to pay for them.
And the books are expensive, especially when you have all these multiple editions, and they're already for free on her website.
That's true. It is nice, but I would like them personally in a book. Just saying.
Yeah.
Before the end of chapter 3, we're taken back to Adjungate, and we find out about Foley, that he was a member of the Lupa Prolia who was turned by Tal, and he's been hiding in Sanisroth, and he has knowledge on alchemists. So, of course, this is foreshadowing of Foley's importance in this book as well.
Absolutely. In chapter 4, big thing, we get introduced to the Rot. So the Rot, we
Rot.
first got introduced to actually in Quicksilver when Saris talked to Zareth, and he showed her the Rot in the tree, and it's coming for Evelia and all that stuff. So now we actually get the tangible impact of the Rot. There are feeders that were standing by the Darn. They look animated in a certain way, and these fuckers don't die. You can chop their head off, you can burn them, you can do whatever to them, and they don't fucking die. So, and what's really important also here is they continue to spread. It's not like they're contained with these weird feeder things. They were tied. So essentially, once they captured the feeders and cut their heads off and buried them elsewhere and tied them to the oak tree that is in Irem, it actually ultimately rots the tree and spreads, and there's mushrooms, and it's disgusting. And so it's not that they're just self-contained, they're just continuing to infect. So that's really important here. And also in this attack, Danya was burned really badly, so that kind of plays into how she looks and some awkward conversations she has with Saris, because Saris doesn't know how to do small talk. So
she doesn't.
Yeah, and she loses a lot of her hair. So, but yeah, the Rot and the new feeders are really important here.
Yeah, and brings us to chapter 5. This is where Kingfisher and Lorth bring this bag of severed heads back to Ementria to show Saris and Tal. Tal is freaked out. He's never seen anything like this. This is not a good thing. Carrion points out that they are from Zilvarin because they're trying to figure out whose feeders are these. There's this mention of dead stock, and so they don't, for lack of a better term, they don't tag the feeders to specific people, because they know already that the sires, the people who made them, are the only ones that they're going to answer to. So it's fairly simple to find out whose feeders are who, because the sires control them. It's not so what they're called is dead stock, and nobody can actually steal the feeders from them because these feeders answer to only one person, which is really interesting, because they're we don't have to mark them, because they're thinking, Kingfisher and Saris is well, we'll just whoever these are, we'll know, and we'll know whose they are. We'll go figure out who's causing this rot and get to the source straight away. Kyrion's wait a minute, these are from Zilvarin. And I remember texting you about this, and this is where this sterilization tattoo from Saris that was brought up in book 1 is brought up again. Because on the back of the ear of one of these feeders is this X tattoo that's still visible on these feeders. And more importantly, their ears are rounded. So this is something, and to me, I'm just thinking to myself, how the Fae and vampires are not more aware that someone's ears are not pointed in this book. I will say that was a critique of mine, where I was just how do we not notice that somebody's ears are not?
How do we miss that?
How that seems.
I mean, you
fairly...
have a decapitated head kind of gnawing at you,
I mean, I guess you don't have
so
the time
I feel
to really look. I mean,
but this also peeks into Carrion's fucking smart. Yeah. Carrion knows more than he lets on.
Absolutely.
And yes, very, very observant. And a part of that is when you're a smuggler, you have to be such things. But he plays dumb. He says, if you want me to be a jester and treat me like a jester, I will be a jester. So if you want to treat me like an equal individual and treat me like I'm intelligent, then I will show you how intelligent I am. And here's him I'm going to participate. And we see that more. Carrion's character development this entire book has been my favorite. Absolutely my favorite. I mean, Carrion was one of my favorite characters anyways, just because, he's the comedic relief. But here we see more depth to him. So
yeah, really, and Onyx too. I mean, I think it's very telling that the inside flap artistry of this book versus book 1, where we had the new release of Quicksilver had Saris and Kingfisher on either side with the butterflies and all that. This one is Carrion on one side and Onyx on
Mhm.
another, we know that these two are going to play critical moments in this book, and they're two key drivers of the story. Massive, massive supporting characters that have a huge drive to where this story goes.
Mhm.
Fisher then, after this conversation with Carrion, which is really more of like Carrion just talking, Fisher believes that Madra is the one who is up to this, of course. And this is where Saris gets this feel of like, there's an Amontraith Quicksilver pool. I know that there is. I can feel that there's one. And Tal's like, yeah, there is. So that gives us a chapter 6.
So the Quicksilver pool is in a sepulcher. I think that's the pronunciation properly. Essentially, it's like a massive building for a tune.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I remember hearing on the audio, and I was like, wait, say it again.
Yeah, very difficult to say. But essentially, a sepulcher is a tomb. But it's like a big building of a tomb.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, since these are like the undead, I thought that was kind of really cool imagery here. And it could be like multiple buildings as well, like built on each other. So it's supposed to be really cool architecture. And having access to the pool means easier travel for their plans. And Sarah ultimately can return. Yes.
Yeah.
Very big. She can return to college whenever, you know, she wants, and vice versa, go to Amontraith. They don't have to like cross the mountains, so super easy. And Saris does return to college with Fisher, which he orchestrated as like a dinner for close friends. Lorth continues to despise Ishabal, who she's there to help with Everlayne, and Everlayne still passed the fuck out. And I thought that would resolve this book, and it didn't. So I thought that was really strange that she is still like like, you know, just gone.
The Madra thing didn't resolve either. There's like a lot of loose ends.
No, that's
like there's a lot of part of this, like the Bellicon thing. Like there's a bunch of stuff with this, and again, we can talk about this more at the end of the episode because I really do want to get into this with you. And just so everyone knows, like Michelle and I deliberately haven't talked about these things. That's why this episode's a little bit scatterbrained, because I'm like, Michelle, we haven't talked about this because we wanted to save it to put, you know, in the first episode about Brimstone. So we're kind of a little bit scattered of like, wait, what happened here? So don't worry. At the end of this episode, we're going to talk about the things we thought were going to happen and like what really didn't. But yeah, so here we go. Everlayne is like still comatose by the end.
And then Danya is actually like, ooh, Carrion. And obviously
the way I was like,
Carrion's flirt. Like, and the fact that Kingfisher's like, if you two procreate, I swear to fucking God.
Yeah.
No, this is not happening. And then we get more of a peek into Archer, because Archer does become important. And Archer and the sprites become very important in this story too.
Yeah, you do.
And they like join them at their own feast table. And it's supposed to be a fun moment.
Yeah, they have like a kid's table. And they're like, no kids table. You guys come over here. Yeah.
And they eat like crazy, so Onyx is happy. But the end of this chapter is really important. They start talking about a wedding. And, you know, it was just like a lighthearted comment. And Fisher's like, no, there's no wedding. I don't need a wedding. And Saris is like kind of caught off guard, but is like, whatever, I don't need a wedding either. We're godbound, whatever. But in the next chapter, we actually see why that's important.
Yeah, so chapter 7, spice. For those who forgot about that.
Very early on.
Yes.
Very early on.
There's a lot of spice in this book. A lot more than there was in Quicksilver.
It's like 3 or 4 chapters, right?
Fisher, yes. So Fisher tells Saris there's not going to be a wedding because I don't know my true name. And you have to give your true name. She's like, well, I don't know my true name, which again is very telling. Another foreshadowing that we don't know Saris's name. We don't know anybody's name because Callie told us that in our interview with her.
Yep.
So Kingfisher is like, I don't know my name because my mother died before she could tell me what it is. And there's a moment where Saris uses her magic. This is a new lesser magic that she realizes that she has. She envisioned having like basically a sound barrier, and she creates one just like that. So they have a very graphic sex scene here where they haven't hooked up since she turned. So this is their first like time that they have intimacy together, where there's some level of safety. They're back in college. They have a little bit of safety where they can actually get some time together. And to be fair, after the bite and all the things that transpired before that, I didn't get that surprised that we had a spicy scene in chapter 7. That wasn't surprising to me.
Absolutely.
It seemed very normal that this would happen. And we have to remember that, first of all, they are newly in love. They're godbound, and vampires by nature are sexual creatures, so are fae. And it's going to be, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of stress. There's high tension. We've got to relieve it somehow. So, spicy time continues. There was already so many like reels about this because I was scrolling. I was trying not to, or like really trying not to. And then I kept being like, oh, when you get to chapter 7, I was like, oh, fuck. Okay. What's going to happen in chapter 7? And of course, yes, it's another spicy scene. But yeah, I thought it was a great scene. I still thought it moved plot. I still added to the story and
introduced the magic.
Yes.
Introduced the tattoos, the transferring of tattoos and how that's important. Correct. It introduced like the act of dosing more so in terms of like how that impacts the Fae, which, love how we got the 7 gods early on. So.
Right. And there's this really, really, really key moment, aside from all the intimacy, where it isn't just that the Fae name is important. It's that the Fae name is powerful. If someone else has your Fae name, the magic tied to your name, they can command you to do anything that they want to do. And again, this is foreshadowing. And Callie is very, very wise in that as a writer. She kind of does something similar to Curse of Broadbent's, another one who makes me think about this, of like, she gives you the spicy time. She's like, look over here at this shiny, spicy time. But really, like, you need to be really listening to what they're saying to each other in this moment. And Fisher specifically saying that a person's true name holds power. And with it, if someone else knows it, they can control you. And they can command you to do whatever you want, and you have no power over that. And so knowing that Saris hears this from him and knows this is so critical to what happens with Bellicon later on. It's a huge foreshadowing moment of where we're going to go with Fisher and his name. And it's a big confirmation for all those people out there who are like, I can't read this book because his name is Kingfisher. Well, it's not. So there you go.
Just get through 2 books of him using Kingfisher as the name.
Yes.
But this is also true, which I like because, we did a little dive into research of like why this is important, and she stays true to the lore of what a true name is and how it does hold power. And like, there's a lot of different fairy tales that, old classical fairy tales goes all the way back to ancient literature where, names are hidden. So after spicy time, we have chapter 8. Kingfisher wakes up to an empty bed and he's like, this is ironic. I've always the one that's leaving the girl. So, but Saris is restless because her sleep cycle is like non-existent. She essentially hasn't slept at all, which is not good for her, but she can't help it. There's a lot going on. Yeah. And so he ends up returning to camp with Renfis, who I love getting this character detail of Renfis, that he's just a gossip. He just wants to know what's going on. And he's like just teasing Fisher all the time, and he's just I just thought it was really funny. But Renfis specifically doesn't trust Tal, and we knew that there was a past with Fisher and Tal, but we didn't know how far back that actually went. It actually goes back to like their younglinghood, when they were like younger. So Tal was supposed to join their brotherhood, but instead he actually chose to dip and go to Sanzaroth. Like, he chose Malcolm, which is crazy. So that's why Renfis doesn't trust Tal, because, the whole Lupo Aurelia is like, you fight the feeders, you fight the vampires, and he willingly joined them. We find out later on why in more detail. But here you're like, maybe I'm not supposed to trust Tal. And this entire time we're thinking like Tal's great. But if Renfis doesn't trust him, we probably shouldn't trust him. And the entire time I'm trying to figure out why. Why shouldn't I trust him? He seems like everything's great. And the not trusting him part, I feel like it's not as bad.
No, it's not.
He causes a lot of chaos.
Yes.
But he like good intention chaos. So, whatever, we'll give it to him. But we'll talk about that once we get to that part. But they're walking towards Erin, and guess what? Erin doesn't exist anymore. There is ash and bones everywhere. 11,000 warriors were housed there. Yeah. Gone. The only thing that remains is the oak, which is like black and rotted. So yeah, the rot's just spreading, and they're like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, it's visually awful the way that this is described. And we have to remember too, like, we were just in Erin for a huge part of Quicksilver. So we spent a lot of time in that camp. We, essentially got to know like that there's families there, that people had lived there for a long, long time. and they had been battling these feeders for, over 100 years. And yeah. And so it's just, it was a disturbing thing to see 11,000 just gone like that, as if it was kind of nothing. One thing I highlighted, which may be nothing, it could be something, could be nothing, I don't know. But whenever at the beginning, when Rumfus is talking about being a gossip, he makes this comment about bored sheep herders in the shallow mountains.
Sheep herders.
And he's like, yeah, you'd be surprised. Like, they get up to gossiping all the time. And I'm like, okay, well, the shallow mountains are definitely like semi-new to the map. Like, maybe there's a reason he's just like off the cuff mentioning that. Like, maybe we're going to go talk to some gossipy sheep herders in book 3. I don't know. Maybe we're not.
We find out that he's, at the end of the book, we find out that he's like one of the Ajan guards, and that's in the mountains.
Yes.
So I feel like
which is on the other side.
Has a lot of,
still.
Right. But he probably is, who knows how far he has to like go, but he's from the north. And there's also a question of which Saris asks, because Saris mentions that Renfus and Ishabal have the same accent. So this could be where he's originally from. Like, he might not be from like the winter area. So that could be why he brings up the sheep herders. We get like a little tidbit of
maybe
where he's from, and maybe Ishabal's from there too.
Chapter 9.
So
Saris decides to go visit Everlayne, and the way that this is like a horror movie, because I was just sitting there like, what the fuck? When she goes to visit Everlayne, she's just like, hey, Everlayne, like, hope everything's okay, da-da-da. And it's like, she hears you, she feels you, open the gate is open, the gate, open it, open the gate. I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm listening to this on the audio, and I'm like, the hell is going, where the hell is Everlayne, And so, like, straight up, everything was, going okay. We're laughing, we're joyous. Oh, 11,000 people are dead. Oh, okay, by the way, we're going to go visit Everlayne, and she's possessed by something demonic. I don't know, like, what's going on? So we take a turn here, quite drastic turn. All the laughter is sucked from the room as we have Erin kind of falling apart. And now we come into chapter 9, and Everlayne's possessed. Then Saris touches her quicksilver earrings, which Everlayne has quicksilver earrings on. And it turns to
that was interesting.
Yes. It was very interesting to me that Everlayne would be wearing quicksilver earrings. And there was a distinct reason for that, I'm sure. But we don't know the exact reason at the time.
She's fucking asleep still. Yes. We don't know.
No. Everlayne starts speaking now, and it's Adina, Fisher's mother, actually, who starts to speak through Everlayne while Everlayne's comatose. And Adina tells her, you need to go to this library and find a book that's hidden. It's small, thick, blue. It has a butterfly on it. It's hidden among the stars, hundreds of stars, which is very obvious when you do a reread. But in the first time, you're like, the fuck is she saying? Why can't you just say it? Like, nobody can ever just say it in these books. No, they have to give you like a roundabout.
They have to solve a riddle.
Like, nobody can just be straightforward. My God. Okay. Well, you never know who's listening, I guess. So the gods told Saris about the rot and that it's going to continue to come and it's going to continue to spread. And so Adina, if we remember from book 1, Kingfisher's mother is a seer. And so she was able to see, she drew Saris many, many times, perfect images of Saris with the ears and all that. And, we remember in Quicksilver that we thought that she had gotten the drawing wrong. She must have just omitted the fact that the ears, right? And she's like, no, I fucking got the ears right. And you guys just need to look around. But anyway, so she had drawn the correct ears. And Adina tells her, you need to find this book because it's the only way that's going to stop the spread. And you cannot tell Fisher. The book is not for him. He cannot read it. It is only for you. And then she's like, you need to seal these runes. And the mayor was like, seal the runes? The hell? And she's like, yeah, you need to use your magic. You need to seal these runes. You're marked with these runes. And it flows through you and it will not stop. Like, basically the runes could be detrimental. You need to seal them. That has to be done. Adina starts to fade out. She kind of goes away and Fisher storms into the room. So the runes on Saris begin to glow at this time. But it's like, there's a lot to unpack here. There's a lot of things happening. We know that Adina now basically, and we'll talk about this more in our episode next week because Kingfisher kind of grapples with this, but she has not made peace with her. Yeah, her soul is not at peace. She's literally been waiting this whole time for Sarris to like show up.
1,000 years.
Yes.
She died. Like Kingfisher's 1,733 years old.
Yeah.
She died when he was 13. So
when she had Everlayne, because Belicon slit her throat. Let's not forget that part. Belicon killed Adina. It's important.
She's just been wandering, just trying to stay like attached to this world. That's awful.
And now knowing what we know, well, let's get into our theories and our quotes real quick. We'll come back to this. I want to talk about what we thought was going to happen, what did happen, and what were our pertinent quotes of so far that we talked about in today's chapters of Prologue through chapter 9.
Right. So I feel like, we already talked about like the prologue and the important parts of that. One thing I wanted to point out with chapter 2, this is where we have the different gods that are introduced. So, and Aerith, he and his followers are religious zealots. They worship one of the demon gods. If he gets his way, every single living being in Avelia will be drained of their magic and turned into slaves. Every continent will be turned into a wasteland paradise for vampires where they can hunt, kill anything left alive for sport. The first part's really important because we actually go into the demon realm. Ultimately, at the end of the book, that's, where Kingfisher and Sarris end up. And we also get introduced to another demon god, and we'll see that when they go into Zilvarin. So I think it's really important. The demons are going to play a heavier role and what their purpose is in the next book. And I think that tells, because we've talked about how there's this greater evil. It's not just Malcolm, Belicon, and Madra. There is this greater evil here. I think this is peeking into that it has to do with the demon gods. And, the fact that they just killed Aerith, obviously at the end of the book, they're not very happy about that. But
where they wind up here, too, at the end of the book.
Yeah. So, yes, this is very important from chapter 2, leading to the end of the book, leading into the next book.
Yeah. And Callie's, like we've said before, extremely thoughtful in how she titles these chapters, the names that she uses. She makes it a point, you've got Hell's Teeth is chapter 1. There's a reason it's called Hell's Teeth. Hall of Tears, Dose is chapter 3. Chapter 4, 114. Chapter 5, Deadstock. Chapter 6, Titles, Home, Make Your Peace, Hidden. 9, Hidden is his mother's hidden, of course, in Everlayne, and she's been in hiding this whole time. And also this book is hidden. So she always has like these multiple meanings of what her chapter titles are and what all these things mean over time. Callie's just very, very intentional with how she's going to set this whole book up and what she's trying to play out. So
right.
Yeah, very interested in seeing where these go.
And also, because we're talking about like evils from other realms, the demon realm. Even in chapter 4, when Lorith is talking about like when they first see like the feeder with their head cut off, it says nothing in our world could produce this kind of evil. Does that mean Zilvarin, or does that mean maybe Madra is like connecting with something else? Because we know that there's been a demon god hidden in Zilvarin, right? And now we know the whole fucking wheel has been really important, and she actually has a lot of fucking power. So how she has to be working with a demon god. Ultimately, there's too many references to demons, to other gods.
Why can't Belicon
now
die?
We're in this other realm.
Yeah. Like Belicon's head comes
the
off
entire time,
and he just is like gonna live? The fuck? Like how? Yeah. What kind of magic is that? That's not fae magic. That's not vampire magic. That's some other shit. Yeah. That's some other shit that is not. Yes. There's got to be more to that. I thought it was really interesting about the witch that was once a witch who turned, who's on the
Alget
Lords of Midnight. Yeah. Because we see that later where we have another witch who dips into dark magic with Tal to do something that she shouldn't be doing. And she's also been given a lot of power by her clan because they all think, oh, she just went and asked the vampires not to be vampires anymore. And they just did it. And turns out Ishabal did not do that. And she definitely made them convert. And so I think there's we know that she's going to get cast out at some point. Something's going to happen with her in book 3.
I wonder if she has a connection with Ishabal and Alget.
Oh,
I
maybe.
wonder if they have like a bloodline connection. Because
Interesting.
I mean, Alget's kind of, they mentioned that Alget's younger in terms of like the other
Oh,
vampires.
yeah. Like she just looks old as
But
shit, but she's like the youngest one.
right,
Yeah, she looks horrible, but she's
exactly.
the
And
youngest one. She
Ishabal
just,
is younger
yeah.
too.
Mm-hmm.
So where does one learn the dark magic if she even says like, I refuse to go into Nevercross, or not Nevercross, the catacombs in Nevercross, because that's some evil shit. But you had to learn dark magic from somewhere, especially if it's
Mm-hmm.
forbidden in the witch's clan. So I'm curious to see if like maybe, because Alget gets away ultimately.
Yeah.
So I think she's coming back. She's definitely coming back in book 3. There's no way that she's not. And I think there's a connection between her and Ishabal.
Yeah. And I think that the multiple mentions of darkness, other gods, worshipping of dark gods, that's brought up in this book, not just towards one specific type of magic. You have it with
Mhm.
witchcraft. You have it with the vampires. You have it with ultimately dragons. You have it with all these different parts of this world that's layered in, of the Fae, obviously, with Madra and Belicon and all that. You have it layered in of where these different references of a darkness that goes deeper than just making a choice. There's something more there that I think is what book 2 is really setting us up for, is in terms of like a middle book in this series. We're not getting to the full truth of it because there's so much other shit that she has to tell us about, but we're getting somewhat there.
Right. One more thing I think is really important is, well, Saris's runes or tattoos,
Mm-hmm.
they are stationary, which is, it's different than Kingfisher's. Kingfisher's move, and she even points this out, that hers doesn't move under her skin and they're locked in place. So obviously Fisher, there's some runes that don't leave him, and that's linked to like his soul or his mission. And I think that's important here, that we need to pay attention to the runes, obviously, throughout this book, especially Saris's, but how it's like a soul connection to her, because they're stationary. They're with her forever. So there's just in Quicksilver, there was an emphasis on the tattoos, but here I think we need to pay more attention to placement, movement, how that's working, especially as she goes through her journey, where now she knows that she has to literally seal the runes to essentially not implode.
She's in so much pain because of these things too. Mm-hmm.
Right, because the power is of the alchemist is like harnessed. It's not something that it's like a never-ending well. So she has to be able to control it so she like doesn't implode and explode. So yeah, do you want to get into favorite moments? Or do you want to hop into okay. So what are some of your favorite moments from prologue to chapter 9?
Obviously, Prologue One Horse was one of my favorite moments because it's hysterically funny. Because it's the way it's described, because it's not like Carrion's like riding back to back with Fisher. He's like bopping around on the butt of the horse, like flying off back there. And he like goes careening, like flips all the way off, is like, has to like use his sword, shit's a mess. It's just craziness that's going on. And like their banter is just hysterically funny the whole time. So I really,
the entire time.
Oh yeah. Like they're just constant. So I had a really fun time reading that. One of the moments that I enjoyed most, I kind of always like the validation and the private moments of Saris and Kingfisher's moments, because I think you want to believe that someone's godbound, like they're done, like there's definitely going to be no one else. But I think reading the validation coming from both of them is always something comforting in their love story. So I've always enjoyed that part. I really enjoyed doing immersive reading for this book because I listened to the audio as I was doing my highlighting in my physical book and in my Kindle. And I just took my time reading this, and that it was really like, I think because we were waiting to read it for so long, but also because I just enjoy the world that Callie has built so much, that I just really took my time and found myself wanting to just go slower, which is a very unheard of thing for me. Ultimately, I still read it pretty fast because I needed to get through it and I wanted to know what happened, and I just like couldn't take it anymore. But I did try to start really slow. And I think like I said, one of the things we talked about at the beginning is like, I like that Saris immediately does not need reminding from Fisher or anyone else that she's going to be the most powerful person in the room, and you're not going to fuck with her. She's not going to be one that's going to be fucked with, and she's going to tell you right away that that's the case. Some of it's ignorance is bliss on her part because she doesn't even know who she's talking to, but she's just like, yeah, try it. Go ahead and try it.
Yeah.
And I've always admired her for that. I admired her for that a lot in book one,
Mm-hmm.
And I like seeing it in these first few chapters here.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, she doesn't get annoying until like I would say midway through the book, just because you want to see more of this, that I'm going to own my power, and she ends up faltering from that for quite a few chapters, which gets really frustrating.
Yes.
But like you said, any sort of Carrion and Fisher moment or just Carrion moment, period. Yeah. I just love Carrion. I mean, when he's like late to dinner, he's like, oh, apologies, I had to work up an appetite before I came to eat. Clearly he was taking a bath. And yeah, he was with the water sprites, for quite some time. And then he's just like, I heard from Lorith you got a new sex tattoo. Can I see it? It's like, what the fuck? Like, what are you? He just comes in like a storm, and it's hilarious. I love what he brings to the table, and like the duality of his character ultimately. So now let's get into what we fucking got wrong.
Yeah, and right. So some of the big ones, I'm gonna go through these really quick, and then we can come back and talk about them more. We had thoughts on Taladeus and Cerys' bond. We had thoughts on who might be dying in this book. We had thoughts on Kingfisher's dad. And we had thoughts on Hayden. We had thoughts on Kingfisher and Karen, how long, like, of the book they were going to be separated from Cerys. And that was kind of it. We also had other thoughts on where we might be going, if we were going to see more from dragons, and those types of things. So I guess let's go with the first one, which is the bond with Cerys and Taladeus. We need to just go ahead and rip this Band-Aid. We heard an audio clip. Yeah, let's just do it. Just do it.
And yeah, we heard the audio clip from Callie Hart, and that was in I believe it was chapter 19. That's what it was, where Fisher and Carrion are in Zilvarin. And they were like, well, shit, it was Carrion the whole time. And here we thought, there's going to be more of an emphasis on a love triangle. And not like necessarily like a, like a Twilighty love triangle. It's more of like a forced love triangle. I wouldn't have minded wide shoes.
Yes.
Why not? Here
also
I was for it.
Yeah, but we know Fisher would not.
We did get a little peek into Taladeus'
we did.
escapades.
Yes. But even in that moment, I was expecting him to kind of be like, oh, Cerys, if you want to come like hang out and like that. No, it's like a father.
There's nothing.
No, it's like a familial relationship.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Because he values Fisher more than anything, really, in terms of, and he values the plan that he has in place than giving into that sort of thing. And I think it goes into, because you mentioned that vampires are very sexual creatures, and it shows the type of control they could have. Like, vampires could have control and have like this whole willingness, like those, what was it, like it was like 6 or 7 girls or whatever. They're all willing participants. None of them were being made into anything. They were just there having a good time. So I think it kind of leans into the complexity of vampires, and they're not just like, let me just turn everyone. So.
But anyway, we got it wrong.
We got that one wrong. What other one did we get wrong?
We thought, well, I didn't get it wrong per se. It just hasn't happened yet. I still think we're going to go there, but I thought we might go to Nevercross or Graves Point. I thought we were going to travel more than we actually did.
Yeah.
I didn't think we were going to end up in Agent Sky. I can tell you that. I definitely thought we bounced a lot from Amontreath to Irin to Kalish a lot. Those were like the primary like 3 places that we went. And it's mentioned that the shield is mentioned and like different places are mentioned, but like I really I thought we were going to travel more than we did.
Right. Same.
One thing we didn't get right about Zilvarin is where Hayden was. It was just like, so like, oh yeah, he's in 2 and like that's it. He's just like there. there was no he's being protected by anyone. Like, nope. He just, you know, he's just in
to Elroy. That's about it. Yeah.
Right. Like, it wasn't, I had this feeling, like, we were talking about it before, that we thought that Carrion would have been like really specific. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would have been more of a, because Carrion was, you know, brought there by Kingfisher's dad, which I got that one wrong because I had this massive theory about Kingfisher's dad. Nope, not.
I thought it was a great theory. I still think that's a great theory.
Yeah. No, yeah, it was wrong. It's wrong. But, you know,
but we still had a good theory.
Yeah.
It was right.
That was interesting, though. It was interesting because one of the theories was that snake oil guy was Kingfisher's dad. But the snake oil guy ends up being important anyways. So I thought it was cool. When I saw him, I'm like, Shaw. I'm like, the fucking snake oil guy. And then when she, you know, in our next episode, we'll get into that part. I was like, oh my God, I fucking knew it with him. And we also, no one died.
Nope.
Lorth didn't die. No one died.
Yeah, we definitely thought Lorth was going to die.
Yeah.
But I do think book 3, there's no way.
Someone has to die.
Yeah. Like, there's no way everybody makes it out of book 3.
Right. And I don't know if you remember an interview.
Not that I want that to happen, but
a while ago.
Yeah.
Right. But our interview a while ago with Stephen Walker, he's like, Quicksilver, there was a lot of battles, but nothing really happened in terms of like no one's life was on the line. Ultimately. He's like, I don't think anyone's going to die in Brimstone. And I'm like, you know what? That's true. Like, no one has died.
Nope.
This series besides Malcolm.
Well, Malcolm. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, you know, none of the good guys. Usually the good guys die. At least one of them. So
I think we're in for a world of hurt by book 3.
Yeah. Someone has to.
Mm-hmm.
Everlayne has to wake up at some point.
Right. Your girl took a nap the whole book in Brimstone. She just slept.
Sleeping Beauty.
Mm-hmm. Literally.
Another theory we had was that Onyx was something else. I still think Onyx is a little shifty.
It's weird.
I think
that whole situation's strange, but we now know that like his soul isn't like someone else's or anything like that.
No, it's not a person. He's not a person shifter.
Right. He's not a shifter. And then also too, like, I think this is like Callie's ode to being a dog mom. That's what I think this whole thing with Onyx is. Like, she's not going to kill the pet. Yeah. But when she did kill the pet, and I was like,
when she did, when I texted you, I'm like, she fucking killed the fox. I was so pissed. I was so mad when that happened. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
But then, like, another chapter or 2 later, I was like, oh, okay, it's fine. It's fine. We're fine. Like, there's no fucking way she did it.
Yeah. Let's talk about Kingfisher's dad. So, the way I screamed at the end of this book, I was just like out loud. I was like, I fucking knew it. Because I knew he was still alive. And I knew dragons were going to come back in. Obviously, the title of it is Brimstone. We've talked about this before. She gets a brimstone rune. And we know like that the dragons breathe brimstone. It's mentioned in book 1. So I was like, somehow, which we can talk about how we think her brimstone rune is going to like play a part. And we'll get more into this as we cover the whole book. But the way that I knew, I was like, I knew his dad had to be alive because we've never seen a body. Like we don't know like what's happened to him this whole time. It's just never been. And the same honestly goes for Cerys's father too. And because we still don't know Cerys's lineage and like what went on there, but it's still, I really thought for the longest time that Kingfisher's dad's been alive. And so many of the people we've talked to have been like, yeah, he's alive. Where is he?
He's alive.
And now we know where he is. I got the
location wrong, but he's alive. Now we know.
Yes. And I want to talk about this other pool. And we'll talk more about this too as we get into like our further episodes. But like we have another pool to travel through now. A whole nother one. A black one. And it has been open this whole time. So that's wild. Yeah. And we also find didn't predict that.
We'll get more into the ending when we go to the ending. So we're getting a little ahead of ourselves.
We are. Here. But we did predict that Kingfisher's dad was alive, and we did predict that we would see dragons again. Mm-hmm. Those 2 things were true, which we have.
Nam Shakrai was not the last.
Nope.
There are more.
Definitely not. Definitely not. All right.
Now it's time for a mystery Q&A.
Let's do it.
All right. Do you have a question?
I do.
Okay.
Do you have a question?
I do.
Okay.
Wait, okay. Before we go into our questions, are we doing dark or are we doing light? Because like I feel like
It's
we're always on
fine.
like this.
I have a question that's like, I just want your opinion on it. I think it would be helpful
Okay,
for
go.
others to hear this question.
Okay,
So
shoot.
everyone knows that's been listening that Michelle is very pregnant. Okay. We are like
Oh,
T
yeah.
minus several days
We're
now
ticking
from
down
birth
the
of baby
days.
boy. Like we're close. This being your second pregnancy and now second labor, what are you doing, if anything, differently from like a mental health standpoint, getting ready for birth too? What's that been like, or has it been?
Honestly, this time around, I feel less stressed just because I'm
Okay.
like, I've made it through one before. Like, I know what to expect. And obviously, every birth is different. I'm staying off the internet. I'm
This
staying
is
off
good.
Instagram. I'm staying off of
For like
the
advice
mom.
or
Yeah, for the
okay.
advice, because no one makes you feel more bad than scrolling through Instagram and
Oh,
like you have
yeah.
these moms that are telling you all the things that you need to do and you're
Like
not
how
doing
shitty
them,
you
or all the
are.
things your
Yeah.
baby needs to do. Yeah, I'm staying off that. It's done. I keep seeing the things with pregnancy, like if you want an easy birth, do this. I'm like, nope, done. I don't need social media to tell me I'm being a shitty mom. Okay.
I
That
can
comes
tell
internally.
myself that.
I
Yeah.
don't need I don't need any external person to tell me that.
Yeah.
So that honestly, that would be my biggest thing of advice. If you're doing a mom group, make sure, like on Facebook, because they have those,
Yeah.
make sure you're doing it for like something specific in terms of your advice, because those can get toxic too. And you're like, because there's a lot of controversial things when it comes to parenting. And, either way, you're going to feel like shit with whatever. Someone's
Yeah.
going to make you feel like bad for whatever decision you make. And it's your decision as a parent. So that's my biggest thing this time around. I'm off the social
Yeah.
media in terms of like parenting sort of
Okay.
advice, because, not that I know everything, but I don't
No.
need,
Yeah. I get
I
you.
don't need Chelsea from Missouri telling me that I need to make sure that my baby's doing XYZ. So
Sorry, Chelsea. It's not personal, but kind of it is. Yeah. Well, and so like thinking of like that situation reversed. Obviously, I'm not pregnant right now. Well, not obviously, for
right,
those
but
listening,
like
I'm not
think
pregnant
back
at this moment.
to
But I trigger warning loss, I guess. So if you don't want to hear about loss, fast forward. If you do, stay tuned. Having my son, I've had 2 losses before him and then 2 losses after him. And while it's much easier to talk about that now, I'm in a much better mental health standpoint. The reason I asked you that is because whenever I was pregnant with my son and my other pregnancies that I've had, to your point, my very first pregnancy, I was like all about when is your kid's birth date? And let me look at all the things that are happening. And you have these apps that people probably don't realize exist, but are like the apps of like, you put the due date in of what you're going to be. And there's like these mom clubs for that, like month of May birth dates or month of whatever the birth date is going to be. And it's like all these moms or parents that are in the same boat of having a child in that window. And it's terrifying. The number of like breakups that go on, the like really horrific things where like the mom almost dies, that there's infant loss, there's just like people seeking advice for like really horrible relationship things that they're in, or like just like crazy situations. And I remember after my first pregnancy, and we had a loss, and it was really tough. I had an ectopic. It was a whole thing. I don't want to get into that, but the point being of like on the note of mental health is that's why I wanted to ask you is like, now that you've had your first and now you're going to have your second, I think you get to a point where you're just like, every pregnancy is different. And however it's going to happen is what are you going to do? You're not going to do anything.
right.
You need to just like keep your head clear, listen to what the doctors and nurses say at the time, and just like ride the wave, because like there's nothing else that you can really do. You ultimately have no real control, and like sitting there filling your head with like shit on an app, like all this negative stuff that again you have no control over, it gave me more anxiety. It always just made things worse. It didn't actually help me mentally at all.
I agree.
Oh no, it's not helpful.
Oh.
And like the whole time you're like, wait, am I breathing wrong? Am I sitting wrong? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I eating the right things? It's just
Am
like
I sleeping on the right side?
exhausting.
I'm sleeping on my back, and I'm like,
Right,
you know,
exactly. Like,
yeah, no,
is
there's a
my
lot of
shower
things.
water temperature too hot? Am I going to
Right.
induce labor if I squat down too low? Like, I mean, just like crazy stuff, you know, like
Yeah.
just too much. But anyway, that was my question.
Right.
So hopefully
And
someone benefits
no,
from.
and to your point, I honestly think, and the second time around, because a lot of what I dealt with, like postpartum, was a lot of anxiety, and I ultimately
Yes,
ended up going to therapy for it.
same.
Go to therapy.
Yes,
Honestly, that's the biggest thing.
seriously.
And I feel like that's
And
why I feel so much more
ugh,
confident going into this one, because it's not that I've been
postpartum
through
is
the
rough, man.
pregnancy.
Really, really
Right.
rough.
But
Isolating.
I've battled with that, and
Yep.
I know how to go through that now. And obviously, if it comes to a dark point again, then I know that I need to go to therapy again. But the fact that therapy allowed me to unpack a lot of that stuff, and I'm like, I'm just creating scenarios in my head, and my
Yeah.
body is like, yeah. You're good. The baby is not gonna make it. I'm like, wait, no. And like your body creates this physical reaction over the
Yes.
anxiety because social media is telling you that you need to do this, and
Yeah.
it's a lot.
Yep.
Delete social media.
Yeah.
Go to therapy.
Seriously.
Those
Go to therapy.
are my two
But
things.
also too, I think one thing that you and I talked about off the show is that we are both COVID moms, meaning that we both had babies, COVID babies during COVID. And I think that is such an anxiety inducer that's subconscious.
Yeah.
When we had our children, we were very isolated. I couldn't have visitors other than my husband. And
my husband almost didn't make it to my birth because the hospitals were literally still closed like 2 weeks up until I gave birth. Like I was freaking out. Like I'm about to have to do this alone.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and like they tried to make me wear a mask while I was in labor. It's like, this isn't happening. I already have a negative test. Like
I can't breathe.
And, you know, there's so many other like really horrific things that happened to other people. These are just our stories. So I'm sure everyone has their own experiences of what went on. But I wonder now, second time going around, where we are as a society coming out of being in a pandemic world. I wonder if that just like even subconsciously reduces that feeling of anxiety to now knowing that fear of the unknown that we had, because we had so much fear of like this. We don't know if this affects babies. We don't know if it affects nursing moms. We don't know if you're going to get it and die. Like it was just so much. And, you know, my grandmother passed away from COVID. So it's a lot. It's horrific. The whole thing was incredibly traumatizing. And I didn't mean to bring this up to like put a downer on the whole episode. That was not my intent. But it was really my intent of just being like talking about mental health and you being at a point in your life it's a huge turning point. I mean, it's a big part of our show. The fact that you're pregnant with your second child, and you know it's going to be something we're going to talk about. I think that being open and transparent as millennial mothers is a part of the show, and something that
little guy will likely be sleeping next to me as I'm filming.
And and like that's the reality of what world we're in, that we're privileged to be able to do that. But I think it's something that we should be talking about, and a topic that's interesting to a lot of other people, hopefully. So, yeah.
Right. On a lighter note, so the question I was going to ask,
I was afraid of what your question was going to be. I was like, oh no, did she pick a dark question?
No. Because now this is the holiday season.
Yeah.
And you know, I think a lot of the times with the holidays, mental health is a big issue, and a lot of times we do these traditions to maintain our mental health. It kind of gives us like a little, you know, dose of dopamine when we have our traditions that we have. So, what is a major tradition that you have in your household in terms of the holidays?
Ooh, that's a good one. We always buy a real tree together. We have it measured, we have a spot we pick, we go to the same tree seller. Tree dealer sounds wrong.
Have like a coat. Do you want 7 to 8 foot?
Yeah.
9 to 10.
Yeah. You know, they pay cash. And anyway, just kidding, guys. It's a regular tree farm place where they go and sell the things. But anyway, yes, we go and buy our tree. It has to be a live tree. It's a big thing. We also buy a new outside decor item together as a family every year too, like to add to our outside decorations. because Florida weather, while we don't get the snow and all the shit pelting our house, it gets really hot. And honestly, a lot of the items each year don't always make it into the next year. Some things don't survive, whether it be bows or garland or blow ups or whatever the thing may be. And so often has to be replaced. So I think our outdoor decor is like a big thing that we love to put out. And then our real tree. It's a big one. Got to have the real tree.
Awesome.
That's our thing. What about you?
We also have a real tree. We pick one out every year. Okay. I'm like over the top with Christmas just because, you know, my parents got divorced when I was in middle school. And after that, like Christmas died. So I'm like, we do all the Christmas things.
We do too. Yeah, I was also divorced parents. Yep.
Yeah.
Big thing.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So we get a real tree, and you know how they cut off the bottom of the tree?
Yes.
Just so you can like put in water and everything. So we make an ornament out of that. And every year that ornament is like a keepsake. So with my daughter, you know, the first tree that we had, it was actually a really small tree and her handprint like barely fit on. But we do like something with her fingerprint and like handprint. So we cut off 2 this year. So I can have one for little boy and then one for them together or whatever. So yeah, that's what we do. So our tree is decorated with other dead tree trunks. Ultimately, that have been like painted and whatnot.
Alrighty then.
So yeah,
we do get ornaments too throughout the year. We usually try to make it a point to get ornaments of our travels.
When you travel and stuff. Yeah, that's what we do.
So we have ornaments all over our tree from our different travels and stuff throughout the years. So that's always fun to open those and put them on the tree. And we don't have, we definitely don't have like a aesthetic looking tree. Our tree is very not aesthetic.
I'm literally looking at my tree, and my daughter she likes the rainbow trees, which is not aesthetic at all.
No,
there's just
ours is white lights, but it definitely has like random ass ornaments all over it, and like things made by a literal preschooler and baby. And I honestly kind of love that. It's very comforting.
Me too.
Not to say that I don't love the pretty trees that are aesthetic. I just don't have any in my house.
No, no, I like that. I like looking at them. I like going out and looking at them. But
I do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. It's something cozy about having it being unique in your house. So
yeah.
All right. Before we wrap up, let's talk about what's coming up next on Book Club After Dark.
Next week, we're going to continue our coverage of Brimstone. We'll have a new drink of the episode, and we're going to be covering chapters 10 through 18 by Callie Hart, of course. So we're looking forward to continuing to dissect this novel with you. May or may not have embarrassing moments of things we thought were going to go down that didn't, but who knows? It's probably going to happen because that's what it is. And honestly, we love that. Yeah, we don't want... I don't want to predict the book correctly. Where's the fun in that? I want to be wrong about it.
Part of me,
there's more fun in being wrong.
Right.
Michelle's
part of me, I'm
pride.
like, oh, that'd be so cool if I was right. It's the literary nerd in me. But other part, I'm like, wow, I had fun making that theory. So it's okay. I still won. Either way.
Exactly.
And don't forget, we want to hear from you. If you have thoughts on Brimstone or suggestions for future reads, drop a comment below or message us on one of our social media platforms at Book Club After Dark Pod. Show us your fan art, theories, or anything bookish you'd like to share.
Yeah, on that note, I just wanted to make a quick mention. If you have sent us an email, if you had sent a comment to us, and we have or have not gotten back to you, I think we probably have. But if we haven't, note that we are full up for 2025. We aren't accepting any more at this time as far as suggestions for future reads and stuff. It would all be for 2026. So just noting that. Happy to look at it. Probably won't look at it until next year. Not personal, just crazy with the holidays, baby boy on the way, so many things happening. Probably going to be next year, but we appreciate you. You can also visit our website, though, bookclubafterdark.co, to stay up to date on all of our cozy content and to check out our merch.
That's all for tonight. Sleep tight, night owls. Until next time, happy reading.